There are moments in life when the weight of the world feels unbearable, when the days stretch long and the nights feel even longer. When you wake up in the morning and before your feet even touch the ground, the heaviness of life presses against your chest. You are tired, not just physically but deep within your soul. You have done everything you know how to do. You have prayed, you have fought, you have held on. And yet, the breakthrough has not come. The answers you long for seem distant. And a quiet voice in the back of your mind whispers, "How much longer? How much more can I take?" I want to speak directly to your heart today, because you are not alone in this. You are not the only one who has ever felt weary. You are not the only one who has questioned if your prayers are still being heard. You are not the only one who has felt the ache of disappointment, the sting of heartbreak, the frustration of waiting. Throughout history, even the strongest men and women of faith have walked through valleys of uncertainty. Elijah, one of the greatest prophets in the Bible, performed miracles, called down fire from heaven, and yet at one point he was so overwhelmed, so exhausted, that he sat under a tree and prayed for God to take his life. David, the man after God's own heart, penned psalms that cried out in anguish, "How long, O Lord? Will you forget me forever?" Psalm 13 verse 1. Even Jesus, in his darkest moment in the Garden of Gethsemane, prayed with such sorrow that he sweat drops of blood, saying, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." Matthew 26 verse 38. If you have ever felt weary, if you have ever felt like you could not take another step, you are in the company of those who have walked the road before you. But here is what I need you to know. Your story does not end here. The night may be long, but morning is coming. The pain may be deep, but healing is on the horizon. The weight may feel unbearable, but you do not carry it alone. Because even now, in the midst of this storm, God has not abandoned you. He sees you, He hears you, and He is closer than you think. Psalm 34 verse 18 reminds us, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Not far, not distant, close. Right now, as you listen to these words, He is closer than your very breath. He has not taken His eyes off you for a single moment. Every tear you have cried, He has counted. Every prayer you have whispered, He has heard. Every burden you carry, He longs to take from your shoulders and place upon His own. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11 verse 28. This is not the kind of rest the world offers, a temporary escape, a fleeting distraction. No, this is a deep, soul-restoring peace. A rest that reminds you that you are held in hands far greater than your own. Right now, you may not see the way forward. Right now, you may feel lost in the wilderness of uncertainty. But let me assure you, God is already making a way where there seems to be none. Even when you do not see it, He is working. Even when you do not feel it, He is moving. Even when everything around you says, "It's over," God is quietly whispering, "This is just the beginning. Hold on, my friend. Hold on just a little longer. Because this season of pain is not the final chapter. There is more to come." And in the next part, we will step even deeper into the truth of what God is doing behind the scenes, how even the waiting, even the struggle, is part of His greater plan. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. And your breakthrough is closer than you think. There is a purpose in this season, even if you cannot see it yet. I know that may be hard to believe when every day feels like a struggle. When you have prayed, but the heavens seem silent. When you have knocked, but the doors remain closed. When you have searched for answers only to find more questions. And yet, listen closely, God is not absent in your waiting. He is not ignoring your cries. He is not blind to your pain. He is not indifferent to your struggle. No, my friend, He is working. Right now. In this very moment. In ways you cannot yet perceive. Think of Joseph, the young man with dreams of greatness, sold into slavery by his own brothers, thrown into prison for a crime he did not commit. Year after year he waited, wondering, questioning. Had God forgotten him? Had the promises vanished? But what Joseph could not see in those long years of waiting was that God was positioning him, preparing him, refining him. What felt like delay was actually divine preparation. And when the time was right, not a moment too soon, not a second too late, Joseph was lifted from the prison to the palace. The very suffering he endured was the road that led him to his purpose. Can you see it? What feels like a delay is not a denial. What seems like silence is not abandonment. God is working in the unseen. He is shaping you, strengthening you, preparing you for what is ahead. Because here is the truth, God does not waste pain. The struggle you are facing will not be for nothing. The tears you have cried are not in vain. The battles you have fought will not be meaningless. All things work together for the good of those who love Him, who are called according to His purpose. Romans 8 verse 28. Not some things, all things. The heartbreak, the disappointments, the setbacks, the loss, all of it is being woven into something greater than you can imagine. But I know how hard it is to trust when you cannot see the full picture. I know what it feels like to ask, "Why, Lord?" and to be met with silence. If that is where you are today, let me encourage you, God's silence does not mean His absence. Think of the story of Lazarus. Mary and Martha sent word to Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is sick." They expected Him to come immediately, to heal their brother, to prevent the pain. But Jesus did not come right away. He waited, and in that waiting, Lazarus died. Can you imagine the heartbreak? The confusion? Where was Jesus? Why did He not answer? But what they could not see in that moment was that Jesus was about to reveal a miracle greater than anything they had imagined. He was not going to heal Lazarus, He was going to raise him from the dead. And when Jesus finally arrived, He spoke these words, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" John 11 verse 40. And Lazarus walked out of that tomb alive. What does that tell us? Sometimes what feels like a delay is actually the setup for a greater miracle. Sometimes what seems like God's silence is actually Him working behind the scenes, preparing to show His glory in ways we could never predict. And so, I ask you, can you trust Him in the waiting? Can you trust that even when the doors are closed, even when the road is unclear, even when you do not understand, God is still in control? Because He is. And just like Joseph, just like Mary and Martha, just like every person in Scripture who walked through seasons of uncertainty, you will see the goodness of God in your life. But for now, in this moment, hold on, because the story is not over. And in the next part, we will go even deeper into the power of perseverance, the refining fire of trials, and the unshakable promises of God that will carry you through. Your breakthrough is coming. Your story is not finished. And what is ahead is greater than what you have left behind. It is easy to feel as if we are standing alone in the midst of our trials. When the pain seems endless, when the burden feels too heavy, we can begin to wonder, where is God in all of this? The silence can be deafening, the waiting can feel excruciating, and the days may seem to stretch on forever. But I want to remind you of something powerful and important today. You are never alone. God has not abandoned you in your struggle. Even when the weight of the world feels too much to bear, He is beside you. He is with you. He is carrying you. Psalm 23, perhaps one of the most comforting chapters in the Bible, tells us this truth. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23 verse 4. Even in the darkest valley, God is with us. He does not promise we will never face challenges, but He does promise His presence with us through every moment. Can you picture that for a moment? When you are walking through the valley, He is right there with you, walking alongside you. You are never alone. Even when you feel isolated, even when you feel misunderstood, you are not abandoned. When life feels uncertain, when you are uncertain of your next step, when the weight of the world threatens to overwhelm you, remember this: God is walking with you. He is holding your hand, guiding you, strengthening you in ways you may not even realize. Jesus Himself experienced deep loneliness and isolation during His time on earth. He was rejected by His own people. He was betrayed by a close friend. He faced unimaginable suffering. And yet, through it all, He did not walk alone. The Father was with Him, and He is with you too. There is a beautiful promise in Isaiah 41 verse 10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. This is not just a comforting thought. It is a reality. In your struggle, in your heartache, in your uncertainty, God is there. You are not abandoned. But I understand, it's one thing to know God is with you, and another to feel His presence in the midst of your pain. It's one thing to read verses like these, and another to truly believe them when your heart is heavy and your circumstances seem bleak. But I want you to know, His presence is real even when you cannot see or feel it. Remember the story of the disciples on the boat in the storm, Matthew 14 verses 22 to 33. The storm was fierce and they were terrified, but Jesus was with them. He was on the water, walking toward them even though they could not see it. It wasn't until they called out to Him that they recognized Him for who He truly was. Sometimes, like those disciples, we are in the middle of a storm, and we cannot see the Savior working on our behalf. But He is there, walking toward us, drawing near in our time of need. And just as He calmed the storm for them, He will calm the storms in your life too. Not always in the way you expect, not always when you want, but in the perfect timing of His will. And in the midst of the storm, you will learn that He is enough. His peace is enough. His love is enough. His strength is enough. When life feels out of control, when you don't know how you will make it through, know that you have a Savior who understands. You have a God who sees you in your struggle, who loves you unconditionally, who is faithful even when we are not. And while you may not have all the answers now, one thing is certain: you are never alone in this. You never have been, and you never will be. But as you continue to walk this path, remember, there is always a purpose to your journey. Your trials are not in vain. The pain you endure is not wasted. God is refining you, shaping you, making you more like Him through the fire. I know the refining process is not easy. It is not comfortable. The heat is intense. But just as gold must pass through fire to be purified, so too are we refined through the trials we face. 1 Peter 1 verses 6-7 says, "In all this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed." Your faith, like gold, is being purified through the fire. Every trial you face is an opportunity to grow, to trust more deeply, and to become stronger in your faith. The fire refines, but it does not destroy. It strengthens you. It prepares you for something greater. You are being shaped by the hands of a loving and faithful God, who has a plan for your life that is far greater than you can imagine. And while the process may be painful at times, you can rest assured that it will be worth it. The results of that refining will bring glory to God and will bring you closer to the person He created you to be. But as you continue to persevere, know this: there is a joy ahead. There is a peace ahead. There is a reward for those who endure. In the next part, we will explore the deeper promises of God and how, even in our moments of greatest weakness, He is preparing us for victory. Hold on to the hope that your breakthrough is coming and that the best is yet to come. As we continue this journey together, I want to speak to your heart in a way that goes even deeper. I know there are moments when your faith feels weak, when you feel like you cannot go on, when the weight of your burden seems too heavy to carry. It's easy to lose sight of God's promises in those times, to feel overwhelmed by the pressures of life and the reality of your struggles. But hear me clearly, my friend, there is power in your weakness. In 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, the Apostle Paul shares something profoundly comforting and deeply reassuring. "But he said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me.'" What a beautiful truth that is. God's grace is sufficient. It is more than enough. In the times when you feel broken, when you feel small, when you feel like you have nothing left to give, God's grace is there to sustain you. His power is made perfect in your weakness. Your vulnerability becomes the place where God's strength shines through. But we often think of strength as something we must have on our own. We try to carry the weight of the world, trying to fix everything ourselves, believing that we must have it all together in order to be worthy of God's love or to receive His help. But here's the truth: you don't have to have it all together. You don't have to be perfect. In fact, it is in your brokenness that God's power is most evident. Think of the story of Gideon. He was a man who, in his own eyes, was weak and insignificant. He was hiding, afraid, and unsure of his ability to do anything significant. But God chose him to lead Israel into victory over the Midianites. And God didn't choose Gideon because of his strength or his perfection. He chose him precisely because of his weakness. Why? So that God's power could be displayed, so that everyone would know that the victory came not by Gideon's might, but by the hand of God. Gideon's story is a reminder that God uses the weak to shame the strong. He takes the things the world deems foolish and uses them to accomplish His purposes. And when you feel weak, when you feel incapable, that is when God can do His greatest work in and through you. Because it is not about your strength, it is about His. So, in those moments when you feel like you can't go on, when your strength has run out and you don't know where to turn to God. Lean into His grace. Draw from His infinite supply. His grace is sufficient for you. He will give you the strength to keep moving forward, even when it seems impossible. And know this, my friend, even in the moments of pain, even in the moments when you feel most defeated, God is still at work. He is still molding you, still shaping you, still preparing you for what He has in store. The seasons of struggle are not meaningless. They are not a sign that God has forgotten you. No, they are a part of the process of your transformation. The refining fire, the difficulties, the burdens, all of it is leading you to a place of greater strength, greater faith, greater peace. And while you may not understand it now, one day you will see that every trial you faced has been a stepping stone to something greater. Isaiah 43 verse 2 says, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." What a powerful promise. Even in the deepest waters, even in the hottest fire, God is with you. He will not allow you to be consumed by the trials you face. Instead, He will walk through them with you, and He will bring you through to the other side. But we must hold on to faith. We must trust that God is faithful. We must hold fast to the truth that He is working all things for our good, even when we cannot see it in the moment. Remember that victory often comes through perseverance. The Apostle James tells us in James 1 verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love Him." There is a crown of life waiting for those who persevere. Your faith is being tested, but it is also being strengthened. You are being refined, and the results will be worth it. But this requires patience. It requires endurance. It requires trusting God's timing and His plan. As we move forward, remember this truth: God will never leave you or forsake you. Even in the hardest moments, His love is unwavering. He is a God who is always present, always faithful, always working on your behalf. And in the final part of this message, we will explore the incredible hope that lies ahead, the joy that comes after the pain, the restoration that follows the struggle. Your story is not over yet, my friend, and what is ahead is greater than anything you have left behind. Hold on, for your breakthrough is coming. And in the next part, we will talk about how to hold on to hope in the midst of the waiting. As we come to the final part of this message, I want to remind you of the incredible hope that is ahead for you. There is something beautiful waiting for you on the other side of your struggles, and though the road may feel long and the journey may seem endless, I want you to know, your breakthrough is coming. The trials you have faced, the pain you have endured, the moments when you thought you couldn't make it, none of it is in vain. Every tear, every sleepless night, every prayer you've whispered, God has seen it all, and He has been with you through it all. Even when you felt abandoned, even when you doubted His presence, He was there, holding you, guiding you, and preparing you for what is to come. Romans 8 verse 18 gives us a powerful truth to hold on to. "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. The suffering you experience now is temporary, but the glory that is coming is eternal." What lies ahead for you is far greater than anything you are facing right now. It is a glory that is beyond your imagination, a peace that surpasses all understanding, a joy that will fill every corner of your heart. But here's the key: you must hold on to hope. It is easy to lose hope when things aren't going the way we want. It's easy to become discouraged when the answer seems slow in coming, when the healing feels far away, when the promise of a brighter future seems out of reach. But God is faithful. His promises are true, and He is working in ways you cannot yet see. Just as a seed must first be buried in the ground before it can sprout and grow, sometimes you must endure the darkness before the light breaks through. You may feel as though you are in a season of waiting, but I assure you that God is not idle in your waiting. He is working behind the scenes, preparing you for the victory that is ahead. The resurrection of Jesus is the ultimate symbol of hope. When everything seemed lost, when His followers thought all was over, God was working out a plan far beyond their understanding. On the third day, Jesus rose from the dead, conquering sin and death forever. This is the hope we have. This is the promise we hold on to. In the same way, God will bring life to the dead areas of your life. He will restore what was lost. He will bring beauty from ashes. And He will fulfill every promise He has made to you. It may not happen in the way you expect, but it will happen. Trust in His timing. Trust that He is faithful to His word. Your story is not over. No matter how bleak things may seem, your story is still being written. And what is coming is far better than what you have left behind. You will rise from the ashes of your struggles, just as Jesus rose from the dead. You will experience victory. You will experience restoration. And you will experience a peace that only God can give. As you walk forward in faith, remember that you are not walking alone. God is with you. His Spirit is inside of you, guiding you, comforting you, and empowering you to keep moving forward. You are stronger than you realize because His strength is made perfect in your weakness. And in the moments when the road ahead seems uncertain, when the pain feels too much to bear, when the weight of the world presses down on you, remember this: God is faithful. He is with you. He is working all things for your good. His love for you will never fail. So hold on to hope. Keep trusting. Keep believing. And know that the best is yet to come. Your breakthrough is coming. Your victory is coming. And when it does, you will look back and see how far God has brought you. You will see the beauty He has created in you through the fire. You will see the strength you never knew you had, the courage you never thought possible, the faith that carried you through. And one day you will stand in awe of all that God has done in your life. You will stand in the glory of His presence, knowing that every trial, every tear, every moment of weakness was part of the incredible story He was writing in you. You are never alone. God is with you, and He will see you through to the end. Now, my friend, as you continue your journey, take heart. The struggles you face today are shaping you for the victory that lies ahead. Trust in God's promises. Keep walking in faith, and know that your story is one of redemption, hope, and glory. God is with you, and He will bring you through. You are not alone. You will make it.